Howdy y'all, welcome to my channel. Today I will be showing you how to create this awesome Halloween themed card, which is actually a birthday card. So set a spell, kick your shoes off, and let's begin the video. So I've taken these cardstock sheets and cut them down to size for the card we're going to make today. We're going to make a slimline card with Sangria as the card front. We need to add some color to our Sangria. I know, it's like, it's already colored. What do you mean we need to add color? But we're going to add a bit more color. So we're going to use our makeup brush to help us apply some color. I'm going to try this out first with its own color. I think that's really good. Okay, so we just applied Sangria ink to Sangria paper, and this is what we got. So we've got our black cardstock. Now we're going to take this die cut and we are going to use it to help us make a cover piece for over our Sangria cardstock. So we are just going to make sure that we have our black cardstock where we want it. Well, we're going to make sure that we have our black cardstock and our die positioned in the area that we want them in. That'll work. And then we just stick our washi tape right over that. So we're going to run our black cardstock with this die on top of it. We're going to actually do it a couple of times, but I'm just going to show you how we're going to start out. This is the start of our cover plate being used on this black cardstock. Now we will be taking our die and we will actually be flipping it. And we will run this die again. We are just going to flip that die one more time and run it through the machine again. Don't be afraid if your die cut's a little small to extend it, because it is possible. You just might need some washi tape to help you out. Now we are going to stick this black cardstock piece that we're going to stick this black cardstock piece that we have just finished die cutting on top of this Sangria colored piece to hold our cardstock in place. We are going to use this half of a Tim Holtz Tonic platform, stamping platform, and we're going to remove the cut piece from its adhesive backing. So we're just going to use our tool-in-one to help us remove the backing, or at least start removing the backing. Then we are carefully going to place that over our cardstock piece. Then just make sure all your flat sections are all lined up. And once you're done, it'll be really cool looking. Really cool and kind of spooky. But that's okay, because, you know, this is going to be a Halloween card. Now the front of our card needs a sentiment, and that's where this cauldron comes in. We're going to die cut this cauldron, and we're going to also die cut this piece that goes behind our cauldron. We have cut this cauldron out, and we have also cut the backing piece out. Now we are going to take the ink colors Hickory Smoke and Black Soot, along with some small makeup brushes, to apply ink only to the gray cauldron. This will help add some character. Also, it will help our cauldron piece stand out a little bit. Now we're going to bring in the Black Soot. Now we're going to take our water bottle and spritz it a little, along with a bit of kitchen towel to help clean that up. Now we're going to use our tool-in-one to remove the backing from our cauldron, so we can then place it on top of our green silhouette. We're just using our tool-in-one to help us weed this cut piece so you can actually read it. There you go. Now you can see the sentiment, and our sentiment says, "What's brewing?" We now will be placing this cauldron onto our card front that we have already cut some bats out to go on top of. I've already placed some adhesive sheet on the back of this green shadow portion of our cauldron. Now before I stick that down all the way, I'm going to bring out my T-square. It's going to help me make sure that I get this piece on here nice and even. So that's looking real spooky for Halloween. So we are going to bring some more elements in to help us make this card look really cool. What we're going to do is a bit of partial die cutting, because we're not actually going to cut all of this casket out, but we will be using the spiderweb portion of our casket for our card front. Now you may be curious about what material I'm going to cut out to help us create this spider web. I am going to actually use some tissue paper. You can actually cut tissue paper out. It's just a little hard to remove from its adhesive backing. Now we are going to have to make sure we only cut the spiderweb portion as opposed to all of our casket. The washi tape is helping to give us a demarcation line so we know where to stop die cutting. We now have this spider web, but what good is one spider web when you can cut more than one? So we're going to do this a couple of times with the tissue paper. So I have placed the spider webs that I die cut just a bit ago into this box that I use typically for spraying paint or ink. And I'm going to use the colors Black Velvet, which is a Heidi Swapp color shine, and Slate Gray, which is a Dylusions ink spray. Now we're not doing a lot of spray, we're just doing a little bit. So just we're just going to leave those in there till they dry. So we're going to take these cobwebs, which we partially die cut, and we're going to take these scissors. We're going to remove portions of this cut piece to create the spider web that we want. We're going to take this piece and we're going to place it on our card front. I've already placed adhesive sheet on the back of this, so we don't need to worry about any gluing. We just need to take our 2-in-1 and we need to remove the backing. Now this might be a little hard because this is not cut out of cardstock. This is cut out of tissue paper, like the type of tissue paper you get when you are gift wrapping a present. You could do this out of cardstock, but it's not going to create the same effect if you did that. And if our cobweb gets a little ripped, that's okay because, well, it is a cobweb. The only thing I can think of that you could possibly use instead of tissue paper would have to be vellum, but again, that stuff is very thin as well, so you have to be very delicate with that too. So there's our first cobweb. It's kind of looking kind of spooky, right? Now we need to repeat that step 2 more times. Personally, I think that our card is looking very scary and very Halloween. So our card could always be spookier, and because of that, we're just going to go for that added oomph by adding some ghosts onto our card front. And the ghosts are actually going to be cut out of printer paper, because I will include some ghost dies that you can find on the Dies R Us website, as this die that I'm using today is retired. Now we're going to take some washi tape to hold this die in place. Now I'm going to place our ghosts on our card panel. Doesn't that look like the perfect Halloween card? Of course, now that our card front is done, we need to attach it to our card base. So I know that this looks like it might be a Halloween card, which it kind of is, but you know what? Halloween is also just a day, and there are people that have birthdays around that day. In fact, my husband has a birthday around that day, and therefore I'm going to bring in this stamp set from Kindred Stamps, and I am going to stamp the sentiment another bloody birthday. Since I'm gonna do that as my sentiment, well, that means it needs some blood, right? So I've got this punch that I'm going to use for the inside. So we're going to use this stamp positioning tool to help us out with that. It comes with 2 plexi pieces, and this one's for rubber and this one's for acrylic or clear. Bringing in my T-square to help me figure out exactly where to place this sentiment. So I am going to do a bit of ink swiping to create the cardstock piece that we are going to use to cut our, well, it's supposed to be a drippy goo. That's what it's called. And I'm not sure if it was for Halloween or for just in general. I've used it for Halloween cards. I've used it for like summer cards that have ice cream on them. So yeah, it's just a good general punch, but it's not available anymore. Sorry, guys. So we are going to bring in our Crackling Campfire Distress Ink, and we are going to do a direct to paper technique where you take your ink pad and you just run it across your card panel. And basically, you just now have a sheet of Crackling Campfire as opposed to a sheet of White Daisy cardstock. So our ink is now dry, so we can bring in our punch using our edge punch to create our little bloody scene. So I know right now it may look like not much, but once we put it on our card, we will be able to make it look real creepy. Which is perfectly fine because my husband actually loves Halloween, so we're going to trim this down a bit more so that it fits nicely inside of our card. We can now glue this onto our card. Then we'll be able to stamp our sentiment, and then we'll be able to go in and finish this card front. So we're gonna bring in our Xyron to help us out because I didn't place adhesive sheet on the back of this. Now we can place this in our card. And I know it has some of what I like to call adhesive snot on it, but actually I think that will make it just look that much creepier. So it's perfectly fine. Normally I try to avoid this, which is why I use adhesive sheets. We're going to do this without our stamping platform. I think we can. There you go. There's our little bloody piece. Now we just need to stamp our sentiment inside our card. And remember to use your magnets. Now we will be bringing in the black Soot ink to stamp our sentiment. We're also going to bring in some of the Crackling Campfire. So how we do that is this. We put the Crackling Campfire on it first. Then we take the black soot and add that to the bottom. And then we stamp. I always like to bring in a microfiber cloth to make sure I get a nice even pressure. rather than just relying on the platform to do the whole thing. So now we have our sentiment stamped, and we're going to bring in the last thing. We're going to place our card inside of our box to help emphasize the fact that this is blood and it's another bloody birthday. We're bringing in some distress paint in the color Candied Apple. So you just take your toothbrush and you take your water bottle and you spritz it, then you take it over here and you just make a bloody mess. Now it really looks a lot more like blood in your Halloween themed birthday card. Of course, we can't close the card up yet until the paint has dried. I would like to thank y'all for sticking with me to the end of the video. If you like what you saw, please give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos from me, please click the subscribe button. I hope y'all stay safe, stay healthy, stay crafty. Bye y'all.